Yeah. Oh my god. So anyway, yeah. We're broadcasting right now, so.
Okay, so I was shouting about Teen Wolf.
Yeah, actually, I care. Like, I'll have to. Okay.
Anyway, well,
Um.
anyway,
Okay. Okay. So this is for the okay for this is for the audio of the podcast. Guys, sorry about that. We had the internet crap out in the middle of us talking. So this is us just getting back in the conversation about Teen Wolf / American Werewolf in London.
now I
So if
remember
there
what I
was
was
an abrupt
saying.
edit there, this explains why.
I remember what I was
Yeah.
saying. I'm
Yeah.
I'm always weirdly critical of werewolves that are more fleshy or even slick, like literally like moist, than hairy.
What, you don't like those?
No!
You
How?
don't like werewolves that are more frog than they are wolf?
That was always one of my issues with the Lycan and the Underworld series, where they're like
Yeah.
big, like fucking moist lizard people.
Well, technically, shouldn't they be just turning into wolves and not like
I guess.
tall, greasy men?
I guess the argument you can make is, see, my thing is that I'm fine with lizard people, but lizard people gotta be a lizard person. If you're a werewolf,
Yeah, exactly.
well,
Make the most
it.
of what you are. Don't be a half-assed hybrid.
I guess you could make the argument that something like the advantage of the American Werewolf in London sort of werewolf is that the hair that is present on the human body becomes more exaggerated as opposed
Yeah,
to
that's exactly what happens. Yeah. So is that what happens in Teen Wolf too?
Teen Wolf, they shift a little bit. They do kind of they start out with kind of slick and moist and damply sort of furry, and then they improve significantly. They wind up essentially looking like the vampires on Buffy, but with chops.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The werewolf in American Werewolf in London turns into a giant bear-sized wolf dog, like big, very burly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not just a person looking like greasy Eddie Munster.
But anyway, I'll have to give it a shot. It's one of those things that's such a seminal sort of film that I need to partake of it at some point. So
on Reddit this week, someone had posted they went to the Harry Potter studio tour, which I think is the same thing Maxwell Motley went on like last year. She had some photos from that too, and the same person went to the same thing where they had a bunch of props and exhibits on display. And one of the things they had on display was like the Remus Lupin werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Like I guess the big puppet they used for part of that, because obviously in the movie it's mostly CGI, but I guess maybe they had a puppet. And I forgot, like that was one of the worst goddamn movie werewolves. Because Remus Lupin is great, and Harry Potter's great, but man, that was a shitty fucking werewolf.
It was impressively bad.
But yeah, no, it was, man. If you're gonna be a wolf, I can see the point. Like you want to become a sexy boner wolf, not like some greasy lizard, skinny. Yeah, I don't know. See, I can totally see the appeal in being attracted to werewolves, because it is very kind of like, you kind of want an exaggeration of kind of like the bestial human, mammalian, hairy, musky, that kind of thing.
I'm not even necessarily talking about attraction. I'm just saying that I think.
Oh, but I'm just saying though, if you were talking about that from from an attraction point of view, yeah.
A moist werewolf is a weird choice to make. And a lot of people like it, and I
okay, so we know what this week's episode title is: Moist Werewolf.
Moist Werewolf. There we go. Anyway, Bill, tell me what the other movies you've been watching, boy.
No, I just cracked open my Universal Blu-ray box set, so I've been watching lots of Dracula and Frankenstein. Did you ever watch any of those before, like the old school black and white stuff? No. Like, actually, because I never really did too, because like everyone knows about that stuff, and maybe you'll catch it passingly on TV or something like that. But it's interesting to actually sit down and watch. It's funny because I don't even actually watch the movies themselves. I always just watch them with the commentaries that are on the Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Because they work as pretty much silent films.
Sure.
But it's just like I always talk about that every year, the watching those movies. But it's just kind of
watching Dracula's.
Dracula's, man, those movies are terrible. They're so iconic, but like that, especially the first, like the movie that really started off the whole Universal horror cycle with the first Dracula movie is fucking boring as shit. It's only like an hour long, but it feels like 12 fucking hours, and it really is like bats on rubber strings, and yeah, it's pretty fucking rough. Frankenstein is actually more interesting just because the story's a little more interesting rather than just being old dude sucking on necks, so, think about God and stuff like that. Also, Karloff is just such a better monster, too.
Yeah.
He's much more sympathetic and stuff like that. But I talk about that shit every year. But, yeah, so God knows I'll probably be here next week talking about the next round of horror shit I watch. I'll probably watch more Universal stuff. And, man, I keep on hearing people talk about there's a movie that came out called Oculus.
Huh.
Starring Amy Pond from Doctor Who, which is supposedly really, really good. The Nostalgia Critic online, he came out with a list this week of the top 11 new horror classics.
Mm-hmm.
What he's talking about is the movies that were kind of becoming the new. Everyone's kind of like this generation's kind of default Halloween viewing. And one of the things he points out in there is Saw. Even though he points out he doesn't like the Saw movies, he just acknowledges the fact that Saw is that whole Saw series is kind of becoming everyone's kind of default Halloween movie stuff. Kind of like the same way that Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And I take it you've never seen any of the Saw movies, huh?
Oh, fuck no.
Well, it's got Carrie Elways, which I didn't realize until I was watching this Nostalgia Critic thing. Carrie Elways is the star of, I think it's the first Saw movie.
He's also in Disney's live-action Jungle Book movie. That's not a reason to watch it.
So Carrie Elways is not an automatic stamp of quality in anything. Okay. But, so anyway, there's supposedly one of the movies that Nostalgia Critic talks about is this movie. I've actually heard from other people, too, is Oculus. It's about this brother and sister who, they come into possession of this haunted mirror that, will help them solve, the mystery of their parents' death or something like that. I don't think it sounds like it's supposed to be more of a suspense movie than a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just... I'm trying to find some new horror stuff, especially if I can find suspense stuff, because I love horror movies, but I'm not a gore fiend. It doesn't have to be gory to be good. I just want to see good scary stuff.
The only horror movie that I've seen recently that I enjoyed was You're Next.
Which one's You're Next?
You're Next.
Oh, You're Next! I watched that this week.
I like You're Next a lot. I like the protagonist, and I like all the gore except for one moment of cartoonish gore that almost ruined the whole movie for me.
Which one was that?
Where she puts a blender in the villain's head and turns it on.
Yeah, that lady had it coming.
That's some Looney Tune shit.
But yeah,
that was the guy and his accomplice. Do we have to worry about spoiling Your Next?
Well, I don't really want to talk about the spoilers because I enjoy. I mean, the plot of the movie is not the thing. It's really more about this character enduring. But the movie is pretty. To say it's grounded is a little too far, but it's based.
No, it's a goddamn Looney Tunes cartoon movie.
It's not a full-on Looney Tune until that moment. That's when it turns into...
that is the most Looney Tunes, but I do like how it's about this dinner party that's attacked by a bunch of... even saying that it's a bunch of crazy guys is actually spoiling it, because at first you think it's just one crazy guy attacking this dinner party, then you find out it's actually a bunch of guys in these animal masks.
It is about an assault on a dinner party.
I think one of the reasons why I wasn't that impressed by the movie is because as a kid, I remember seeing that there was an Australian movie called Fortress, which was about a bunch of dudes in animal masks attacking this one-room school out in the middle of the outback. Mm-hmm. And I remember that movie scaring the hell out of me, and I kind of wonder if that movie didn't inspire this to some degree, because it's about a bunch of crime guys attacking, and there's a super badass Australian lady fighting back. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things about You're Next is, of this dinner party, there's this one lady who fights back, and she ends up becoming the hero of the movie, and, for some reason, she's got all these crazy survival skills that they don't explain until the movie's mostly over. She's offhand I was raised by survivalists, but she's so much more smarter and better put together than everyone else. Becomes it just totally just doesn't seem realistic. Like you said, it seems very kind of cartoon about how super badass and how she's almost already psychologically prepared to deal with the situation she is. And there's a further plot twist beyond that where that gets explained very ham-fistedly. I had a good time watching the movie. Again, horror movies don't have to be very expertly put together, but I just thought the scenes in that movie kind of...
I'm sorry you had a bad time. I have to ask you, how many militant survivalists do you know?
That's what I'm saying, and she just happens to be the one militant survivalist that gets invited to this party?
I'm just saying, I know some militant survivalists. Not to put too fine a point on it, I married one.
She literally says,
That was
"Oh
not.
boy, I
that
forgot
was not
to mention
part of
I
it.
was raised by militant survivalists."
That was the
Okay,
part
okay.
that I enjoyed because the reason why my wife struggles with horror movies and shit is that to some degree she's always like, that's dumb. Don't do X, do Y. And like I feel like that movie is full of all these dumb white people who are kind of like your standard horror movie characters, and then the character who is essentially like the person who you're always shouting at a movie, it's like, don't open that door, and they open the door. She's the person who doesn't open that door.
But
That's
I can, if they had established her as being that better off at the beginning of the movie, it isn't until like things start to go wrong that for some reason she just suddenly like, okay, well, this is how we're gonna fix this one, this is how we're gonna do that, and it's like, what? Like I was distracted for most of the movie thinking like, why is this lady like super powered where it was everyone else in the movie is such a fainting pussy? It's just such a weird gulf between her and the rest of the characters. And if they had explained at the beginning, actually, if they had started the movie with her showing what a badass she was, so you're just waiting for people to fuck with her, that would have been better.
See,
Rather
that
than
would
just,
totally
like,
ruin
most of
the
the movie
movie for me. If
What's that?
like if a movie that's about a woman, okay, here I will say that I can't help but be a woman watching this movie, and to be a woman watching a movie where a woman is victimized and instead of just being victimized and dying, fights back unexpectedly, that is way more powerful to me than a movie where it's like, it's kind of like if you started Ripley, like Alien with Ripley, like, you know, exploding a spacer full of like prisoners or something, or like,
Although in
like
Aliens,
outlaws.
you already know that she has like a kind of an inner steel, so you're kind of already kind of rooting for her to start fighting
My-
the aliens because
my
she's
point
gonna get
is-
pushed against the wall, but you know she's gonna push back and it's gonna be great.
My point is that to me, the power fantasy is a person a woman who you think will be a victim like everyone else who is actually stronger and overcomes. That to me is more powerful than.
The other take, though, if you're gonna
badass
have the
being
lady
badass.
kind of like gradually show off to be a badass, if you kind of show her kind of gradually rising to the occasion, that's the other take that's the other take you can do on that. But they don't show her rising. She's already, the moment Batshit starts to go down, she's already like, okay, we're gonna do this and do that. And the fact that there's no context given for that until literally at the end of the movie, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a super survivalist. I already know this stuff. And it's just like,
We will have to agree to disagree on that one, Bill. That was what I enjoyed about the movie, was
There's
that
some creative ass deaths in that movie, though. There's some horrible shit. There's this shit with piano wire, and I was like, oh my god, this movie's fucked up. But man, seriously, if you like that, go check out the movie Fortress. It's like a movie from like 1985 about a bunch of criminals in animal masks attacking this schoolhouse, and the teacher has to fight back, and pretty much, oh man, there's this dude with a black duck mask. He's kind of becomes the major villain in the movie, and he's a fucker, and just like Anyway.
Bill, do you have anything else to say about horror movies?
No, I don't. I'm tired.
There's a new Legend of Korra this week. We finally got to see Old Toph in all her glory.
Yeah!
It was
Spoilers!
amazing.
Old cranky Toph.
Old Cricky Toph, who doesn't give a shit about Korra.
I watched the whole episode. Every time they cut back to the new prince, I was like, oh man, I'm bored. Just cut back to Toph. I want to see what's going on with Toph. Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising to find out that she doesn't give a shit about Korra, but yeah.
I was so good, though I do like the power, I really did like the ballsiness of the What's-Her-Butts takeover from the Earth King.
Really? Yeah.
She's in Republic City. She's not even in her place of power. She's at the coronation of the deposed king, and she just shows up and goes, fuck all y'all, I'm the boss. And
I'll take it over.
She's still there. Like, it's not like she's like, peace out, and then rolls out. Like,
yeah, no, she just
like,
stands as, okay, this is my house now.
It's amazing. It was so good. I thought to some degree it was a realistic depiction of the rise of fascism and how blah 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 blah. But I was
pointed out how all of her followers have the Hitler Youth haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not very subtle, but yeah.
Bill, it's the Legend of Korra. Subtlety is not its forte.
But it's so much. It's funny how much Buttface McKatie's comics. The show now is kind of to me, kind of like the fan fiction filling in the gaps between Buttface McKatie comics now. Because like every episode that airs, she does comics about the Legend of Korra, and they're just as entertaining as anything in the actual show. Especially now, yeah, like all this top stuff is going on. But yeah, McKatie posted a great. I guess it was a comic she had drawn like last season. By last season, I mean like 2 months ago, of what she thought like Toph would be like now, and it just Toph like watching, I guess Lin and Suyin kind of like getting into sparring off against each other, and then just Toph off on the side, just eating popcorn, just saying boo, boo, this is the worst fighting. This is the worst fight I've ever seen, boo, and it's just. Fucking stupid.
I love how Toph is just a terrible person. She doesn't give a shit about anybody. It's so good.
I almost like that thing where I would imagine they're gonna have a little touching moment where she actually just says, "I do care about you, Korra." It almost be better if they don't even have that. She's just consistently like, "I don't give a shit. Just go out and do whatever you do. I'm just gonna sit here with my vines eating soup." Fuck you. I'm not leaving my house.
I know that is inevitably gonna happen, but I wish that they would just let her be a crank in the woods.
Yeah! Anyway, so Legend of Korra still cracking. Yeah, Kuvira, man. Oh, man. Yeah, she's great.
I really think that Zelda Williams is doing a really good job voicing Kuvira. It's really good.
I'm just a little bit worried about how they're gonna resolve this, because how do you resolve the situation with a fist fight? Even if Korra suddenly shows up and kicks the shit out of Kuvira. It's kind of like the same thing with Amon in the first season, but they kind of solve... Well, he doesn't get deposed with a fist fight. He ends up being run out of town when she shows him that, she shows off that he's an actual bender and all of his bullshit is bullshit. Yeah. But how does Korra defuse this whole situation? It doesn't seem to... I don't know how you end this series.
I think that this series, I feel like it has to end with Korra becoming more than a brute.
Yeah.
Kind of I feel like that's...
Could you possibly solve it diplomatically?
Maybe. Or I mean, there's gonna be some sort of climactic violence to it, but it's thematically, Korra has to be more than just a puncherino, I think.
And that's the great thing about Kuvira, because she's not necessarily wrong. Do you really want that prince guy running the goddamn Earth Kingdom?
Yeah.
And it's shown that even if he was put in charge, he really wouldn't be running it. He would just be like this puppet leader, so she's not wrong in wanting to take over and...
Yeah.
I don't know.
But Legend of Korra is not a show that, like we said, that does well with subtlety. So I'm curious if they'll address that. I hope they will. They're making King Yu to be such a wuss that I can only hope that they're gonna do something to
Yeah, he does a Beyonce dance.
It was amazing. I actually really liked all the humor with him this episode.
There was one shot where Prince Wu says something to Mako, and Mako's making this twisted up, I can't believe it's not Butterface.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
The design of that was just Anyway, Legend of Korra is good. If you haven't seen it before, I feel bad for you because you've obviously shot yourself now listening to this. Anyway, so what else happened?
Oh man, Bill. Okay, to talk about Lego for just a second. You know that dumb haunted house set that neither of us bought because it was $170 and that's too much fucking money?
Yeah.
I am now trying to find it because I'm like, I don't know, maybe 170 is not so bad, but it's now officially out of print. And
yeah, exactly, yeah.
It is going for, on average, about $375, $275 to $375.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking kicking myself, man. Kicking myself.
Like I said, I would have bought it. I would assume they would have kept it in stock for at least an extra month, because it just went out of stock literally less than a month ago, and you think they would have kept that stock until into Halloween, but what is it? Called the Haunted Mansion?
Yeah.
Because
Haunted House.
We're talking about how Foley had found it on Bricklink.
Well, I had called Bricks and Minifigs, and they're like, oh yeah, we think our Kentucky store has it. Give a call to the Kentucky store. So I called the Kentucky store, and oh yeah, sure, we got it right here, $375. And I was just like,
oh, they're charging that somewhere, really?
Of course they are. They know, they're on Bricklink and
shit. That's rough.
They know the market value of shit. They're no dummies.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, thank you so much for that information, and hung up.
You should just sound like crazy.
Oh man, I'm an idiot. I have regret.
Bricklink actually shows you what parts are in each. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at bricklink.com, which you showed this to me. This is what, like, a reselling like website where like you can get like.
It's both a catalog of all official Lego parts and sets in existence, but it's also a way for you to buy and sell those parts with an array of sellers. And it's usually you can get the best market value for Lego parts on Bricklink.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I just happened to click on something on the haunted house entry on on Bricklink, and it just kind of showed me this whole like list of like exactly like the different bricks and how many of them you get in the box. And
yeah, they'll tell you even like what extra parts you get in the box, and yeah, you could theoretically buy all those parts and download the instructions from Lego.com, and I guarantee
that seems to be what they're kind of doing. Yeah, they have the recipe for the set.
I guarantee you will spend more than $375 doing it that way, my friend.
Oh.
Guarantee it.
So you think you might pull the trigger this week? What's your price limit on this?
Well, my hope is to spend $200 on it, which is unreasonable, so I just won't ever get it. That's what it's going to be.
Oh, man. Just think that if either of us had pulled the trigger a month ago, we could have had it for, like, relatively cheap price of $175.
Killing me. There's a lesson here, my friend. Anyway, in other words, Bill, tell me about the uncle who works for Nintendo.
This is the first Twine game I've ever actually beaten. That's the only reason I'm putting this on the list. It's a Twine game about you go over to your best friend's house to play Nintendo because he has a Nintendo system and you don't. And the big thing is that his uncle claims to work for Nintendo, so this kid's got all like this brand new Nintendo games that haven't been released on the street yet. And while you're over there playing all these like I think the game takes place in 1999, so it's not like 80s nostalgia. It's more like 1990s kids nostalgia, because like it's all like, oh, there's this new Zelda game that it's not on the street yet, but I'll let you play it. So like you're kind of playing the Ocarina of Time and stuff. But something happens where the uncle from Nintendo shows up, and it turns into a horror game. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but the titular uncle who works at Nintendo, it turns out to be a not good thing, and it's a very short little Twine game. It literally takes, I think you can blast through a playthrough of the game in like 5 minutes, but there's like 8 endings. I got like two or three of the endings. I have no idea how to unlock the other endings. I'm not used to playing Twine games, so I'm not quite sure how this stuff works.
Yeah.
It is cool that like this game. I don't know if this is how other Twine games work, but once you beat the game, they give the option to jump back to like a branching point that you could like use to like get to the other endings, which is nice. So you don't have to play from the very beginning all the time.
Yeah, some Twine games do shit like that. It's not baked into the engine though.
It has very cool like sound design stuff. So as you're like kind of reading about how you're playing Ocarina of Time, there'll be a little bit of music of Ocarina of Time in the background, along with like kind of environmental sound. So it kind of sounds like you're hanging out in someone's basement playing.
People are doing cool shit with Twine, I gotta say.
Yeah. So yeah, and like I said, people don't want to hear me freak out about Nintendo anymore on the podcast. But yeah, I just want to mention that because that was the first Twine game I've beat, and it was a fun little experience. And it was super short, like I said, like maybe 10 minutes from beginning to end, and so that was nice. Because like I beat. Oh god, what's the game about being on a Korean spaceship and everyone hates each other?
Analog Hate Story and Hateful?
That's right, I did technically beat that. Is that a Twine game?
No.
That's a text adventure.
It's not. Twine is the engine. It's an HTML-based adventure game. So just by the fact that you played it, downloaded it, executable, you did not play it. That was not a Twine game.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, so that really was the first Twine game I've beaten. So, and you need to write some Twine games.
I have it downloaded. I've noodled with Twine a little bit. I have like the start of a bad Twine game that I'm never going to finish. I also downloaded and started noodling with Ren'Py this week, which is the engine actually that I think Analog Hate Story is built in. Also that Hatoful Boyfriend is made in. It's a visual novel engine. So, noodling.
I was talking to Dylan this week. She got really sick, and she was hitting me up for video game recommendations. And I was like, why don't you play Hatoful Boyfriend? And she's like, I just unlocked the final ending. And I was like, really? I was so surprised that she had not just played Hatoful Boyfriend, but she had beaten it to the fact that she's gotten all the endings unlocked in that game.
Hatoful Boyfriend it's really easy to get to the different arcs. If you Ren'Py has a built-in fast forward button. So
Uh-huh.
you can have saves that are at branches and make different decisions, but you can also just fast forward through all the dialogue and everything like that. But man, the ending of How to Fool Boyfriend is twice as long as any of the actual playthroughs. It's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the secret unlockable ending. And it also explains the universe of Hot to Full Boyfriend and ties together all the seemingly disparate endings. It's amazing.
Aw.
So good.
Did we talk about this on the podcast to how it specifically is supposed to be post-apocalyptic? Like,
Yeah.
is that confirmed? Oh, okay, yeah.
They'll play the game. The ending,
Okay.
the ending explores this at length. I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. I'm busy looking up haunted house on eBay and Amazon just for shits and kicks.
Trust me, my friend. I've been doing this all week.
I know. Now you just got me interested. Not even if I found it, I wouldn't buy it because I just spent so much money at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Hey, Bill, tell me about the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Tell me all about it.
The Portland, I hated it. I didn't spend any money, and I left after 5 minutes. I don't know
Hey,
why
Bill,
anyone.
tell me about the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
No, it was pretty awesome. It was the first time I've ever had to leave an event after I realized my tendency to buy things was going to get me into deep, deep, deep trouble.
Yeah.
I showed up there. This is the first time I'd been to this gaming expo. Supposedly, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo is one of the preeminent retro gaming expos in the country. I don't know how long retro gaming expos have been a thing, but it seems like, according to the internet, like the two big ones seem to be the Seattle and the Portland ones. Not just because they're local, but hearing from other people from around the country talk about old video game expositions, it sounds like these two are really like big ones. It really is. It's just a hall full of people selling old video games. The thing I didn't expect, because when I think of retro games, I think of 8-bit, 16-bit video games. It's funny because you go there and you realize there's two crowds. There are the people like me who are going after the 8-bit and 16-bit games, and then there are like the 17 to like 25-year-old kids who their idea of retro games are PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. And so it's funny to see some booths kind of cater to those guys. I was at a talk where you had David Crane, the guy who invented Pitfall,
Yeah.
and the guy who programmed Pac-Man for the Atari 2600, and the guy who programmed Donkey Kong, and the founders of Activision were all there at a panel. And I was sitting behind these two kids who, while this panel was going on, I don't know why they were at this panel, because you wouldn't think like these two 17-year-old kids would be that interested in what these 60-year-old guys have to say about programming Atari 2600 games. But they were there. And I was kind of looking over their shoulder at all the shit that they were kind of rummaging through their bags, just kind of showing each other all the stuff they'd got.
Yeah.
And they were really fascinated. They were really excited by the fact that they picked up a copy of Shrek for the Xbox, for the first Xbox. And they were poring over the instruction manual. And I was looking at these guys, looking over their shoulder, going, "What fucking retards are these guys?" That they come to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and the big thing is it's literally like a $3 copy of Shrek for the Xbox. and then the one kid brings out, I guess at one of the vendors he must have picked up, it was a Final Fantasy VII branded finger claw, like a silver claw that you put on your finger. That, and he seemed to be kind of disappointed because I thought it's a whole silver claw thing that fits over your index finger. He seemed to be disappointed because I think he thought it would bend, like there might be a hinge in the middle of the knuckles, but it didn't. He was kind of like, "Oh man, this sucks." But still, I saw him kind of making dramatic gestures with this claw while in the, and I was thinking, "What the hell is wrong with these guys?" And I was like, also, and then I was sitting there thinking, here I am, a fat guy, and I'm wearing a Mario hat with a bag full of old retro games that I've bought. Like, how am I any better than these kids? Where I'm like, yeah, and meanwhile, we're all listening to a bunch of guys who are even a generation older than me talk about nerdy shit about programming overflow for old card reading computer compiling machines from 1975, and it's just such a weird nerdy. I just had this the moment of, I don't know what the hell you call it yesterday, but I was like, yeah, it's just man, we're all fucking retarded from one point of view or another. But It was
Foley calls those consciousness-raising Slurpee headaches.
yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, but no, it was a good time. And like I said, yeah, it was really funny. This is the first time I've really been awakened to that. There's this whole retro scene for essentially a generation younger than me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of crazy. But yeah, the first booth I saw, visited, they had a whole bunch of boxed 8-bit Nintendo games.
Oh yeah.
And I bought. We're not doing the video recording this week, but I would show it. But I bought box copies of Castlevania 1 and 2, Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3, Final Fantasy. Then I bought a whole bunch of loose games, like Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World. Well, the funny thing is I'm really into old video games, but I actually don't own that much in the way of actual video games themselves because I have a couple boxed consoles, but I don't have a lot of space to be hooking up old consoles to my TV or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so they did have a booth at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo that they were selling the Retron 5, which is the new machine that has slots for all the like 8-bit Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis. It can even play like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. And so that also connects your TV through an HDMI connector, so it's almost like
nice.
Attaching a brand new, like a modern day console to your TV that just happens to play these old cartridges.
Yeah.
And so this is my first excuse to actually sit down and try to buy some of the old cartridges I used to have as a kid. That probably my original versions are probably moldering in a box somewhere in my parents' basement right now.
Yeah.
But so this was an excuse to actually buy some of these old games. And so I was playing some of that stuff last night, and man, it's just so I bought that, and I bought some artwork. There's this one booth that was selling. It was perler art. Have you seen the perler art stuff where you just get like little plastic perlers and you put them together and kind of make pixel art?
Yeah.
What this person had done, they made like little little framed shadow boxes where they had multiple sprites made from perlers, kind of stacked on top of each other, so it's a little bit of a three-dimensional sculptural look.
Oh, that's
because
nice.
they would have a perler background. Then they would have perler like enemies like layered on top of that background, and then have like the playable characters on top of even on top of that little. So there's like they're situated on different planes, so it creates this great 3D effect.
Oh, interesting.
And so I bought a couple of those, and they look super gorgeous. And that's actually mostly what I got, but it's just I spent a couple $100. I went in there thinking at most I wanted to spend $100.
Yeah.
But, oof, yeah, no. And, man, there was a great moment where I was at one booth, I was kind of, like, looking for loose old games, and I found this copy of Castlevania 3, and this old guy next to me, he kind of, like, he sees me holding this cartridge, and he's like, how much you pay for that Castlevania 3? And I was like, $20, and he kind of looks at me for a moment and goes, that's fair. Like I was being appraised by this guy, and he wasn't being nerdy or anything like that. He seemed like kind of like a nice guy. He seemed to be kind of a cool, kind of grounded kind of guy. I think he was there with his grandkids or something like that. He wasn't like all these other kind of like Asperger guys that were running around there. Man, being in line just to get into the place, you see how it really was the biggest stereotype of what you think a bunch of Asperger's comic book or video game people would be like. Just like it was kind of a hot mess in terms of like the people showing up. It says the big fat dopey guy in a Mario hat who was running around trying to buy old video games. But I had a great time. It was fun.
I'm glad you had a good time, my friend.
Yeah, and the first thing I really did is they had a little couch and an old TV setup, and you could play. They had one couch TV setup that had the 8-bit Nintendo attached, and so I sat down and played some Super Mario Brothers. And they had another TV and another couch set up on the other side where they had an Atari 2600 set up, and so people were playing combat and stuff. And this is taking up a giant booth space in the middle of the convention floor where you could just pretend like it's like 1989 and you're just playing old video games again on this couch with like a little lamp and a little shag carpeting and all that stuff.
Aww.
And,
well, I'm glad you can't go home again.
Yeah, for a brief. Well, the best thing too, because that was literally the first thing I did when I walked through the door. So no one else had even used this stuff yet. And as soon as I sat down, they started blasting old '80s hair metal over the loudspeakers while I was playing. So I was sitting there like playing Super Mario Brothers while like Queensryche was playing over the speakers, and it was like a little slice of like 1989. It was a mess, but there was a shitload of people there.
Yeah.
I kept on hearing from everyone who had been to the convention before that it seemed like there was at least like double as many people there as there had been just even last year.
Huh.
Just getting in, I bought a ticket in advance, and just the line to collect your advance ticket, because the doors opened up for advance ticket holders now before everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get into the convention hall until about that hour was up, because it took that long for everyone to file in, because the line went from, it was held in the same space that Rose City Comic Con was held in,
Sure.
but the line went from the front door all the way to the front door of the convention center.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it took almost about an hour for everyone to file into the convention center, but it was a shitload of people.
Sounds
But
like
it was a
it.
good time. Yeah, Portland Retro Game Expo, thumbs up.
Bill, I'm so glad you had a good time with your video game.
Yeah, I saw Leland too, our friend Leland, which I hadn't seen in
Yeah.
He was like the second guy in line. I don't know if they camped out there overnight or what, but yeah. What else?
Bill, I'm so glad you had a good time with your video games. Meanwhile, I'm still, the only game I really played this week was Wasteland 2. I've officially gotten to the point in Wasteland 2 where I crash every 15 minutes. Like my game just drops out, or if I load a save file, like the textures will start glitching out, and like really.
People bad?
I don't know if anybody else is having buggy issues with the game because I haven't really looked around online, but it's just like, it's kind of funny because basically what it makes me do is stop playing after about 30 or 45 minutes, which is not.
It just sounds like a bad idea. That seems like a decent gaming session.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's really funny. I am enjoying the game once I figured out what it is as opposed to what I wanted it to be. I'm having a good time with it, but
Yeah, you're kind of disappointed with the game?
No, I just said I'm having a good time with it once I figured out the kind of game I wanted it to be, or it is as opposed to what it was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what your expectations versus what the reality was.
Oh no, I was just thinking that it was going to be about like my character in the world and the kind of person that my character is, as opposed to a cipher sort of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All my I've talked about this. All my party characters are kind of ciphers too, and it's fine. I'm having a good time with it. But anyway.
Yeah, when Dylan was hitting me up for Steam game recommendations, that's one of the things I recommended, and she was like, she was asking me if it was like super gross or violent or anything like that. I have no idea. I mean, Annie's down with it, but I don't know how fucked up.
Man, she asked me if she should play Dragonfall or Shadowrun Dragonfall. I hope she picked it up because that's a fun game.
Well,
to enjoy.
Especially Dylan was looking for. She wanted stuff that was either turn-based or role like RTS games or role-playing games. She didn't want anything that was too action-oriented. And so
she's been playing. I saw that she. Oh man, Banner Saga is way too difficult. Way too difficult.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I mean it was almost too difficult for me, and I.
Well, then she's like, I want something that's turn-based, and I was like, well, fucking, I got Fire Emblem here. You just borrow my 3DS, and she's like, I hate the way the 3DS screen looks. That thing looks like shit. I was like, you're not wrong.
I saw that she's been playing Gabriel Knight, which I forgot that since the father was getting a high-res remake sort of thing.
When she told me that she was playing that too, I thought she was just playing the old version. I didn't realize they had come out with a remake.
Yeah, I don't know if I can bring myself to replay it just because A, you can't go home again. And B, that game is so, like, the pixels and everything is so part of it. In the original version back in the day, Gabriel Knight was voiced by Tim Curry. Tim Curry doing a terrible Louisiana accent. It's so hilarious.
Would you pull so he's not in the new version?
I don't know. But to me, it's Tim Curry's dumb accent plus the pixels. That's what it is when I think about it. Like the pixel portraits and everything. Seeing that all in 3D. I don't know. I'll be curious to see if they try to remake the sequel, because the sequel was a full motion video game.
Oh, really? You have Justin McElroy produce and star in it. That's what you do.
That's it. I can't remember much about the sequel other than the climax of it involves a werewolf opera. So maybe that would be up Dylan's alley. Who knows?
Are the lyrics just awoo, 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 awoo?
The idea is that it's a Los Wagner opera, so there is actually an opera sequence in there. It's nuts.
No, yeah, because doesn't it take place in a German castle, like a big, pretty?
Yeah,
'Cause I've seen people. Yeah,
it takes place in what's his butt, the fairy tale castle.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I know about that castle because I've never played Gabriel Knight, but I've heard people talk about the game that it's got Tim Curry and that castle. Yeah.
Well, the sequel doesn't have Tim Curry. It's some.
Yeah, because Tim Curry was like, I'm sorry, I have to go be in the haunted. Wait, what is it? The Last Witch? Is that he's in?
What?
What's he was in a Halloween TV special that people make fun of because like he's got a whole song and dance number like anything can happen on Halloween. That's why he wasn't in Gabriel Knight too because he had to go do that dance scene.
Of course.
You never seen this clip that I'm talking about?
No.
Like it's badly blue screened. And it's obviously not even blue screen. It's like a chroma key video effect from like 1989, where he's all like we're dancing in front of a full moon and stuff. And is it called or maybe it's The Worst Witch? Anyway, people listening to the podcast have to let me know what they think I'm talking about. I thought that was like a known thing. I thought it was like of your generation that you would know what I'm talking about.
Nope.
Have you ever seen It?
Fuck no.
Okay,
Why
I'm just
would
saying.
I ever see it?
It's got Tim Curry.
It's not a reason why I would see
And
it.
I forgot how your favorite fantasy film is Ridley Scott's Legend, starring Tim Curry.
Oof.
Oof.
The only thing I did watch this week was my wife and I watched all of season 5 of The Great British Bake Off. What a great
Oh,
show.
did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, we finished it yesterday.
That's 15 hours. That's 10 hours.
It's a great show. It's interesting because a friend of the podcast, Maxwell Motley, introduced it to us while she was in America, and actually, more to the point, introduced it to Bill, and Bill hooked us up with it. It's a amazing, like, supportive, non-threatening, kind of more collaborative, competitive reality show.
Oh yeah, I was trying to explain to my housemate why I like it so much, and he hadn't seen it. He just like because he had heard us watching the episode of Great British Bake Off that we would watch when you guys were here last Sunday, and he was like, "What the fuck were you guys watching?" Because he could hear us like freaking out about the words Great British Bake Off, and he's like, "What the fuck was that?" And so I was trying to explain to him like why we liked that one episode so much. I was like, "But everyone's nice to each other, and they actually help each other out, and there's none of that like I'm not here to make friends bullshit."
Yeah.
It's just the quaintest, cutest little goddamn. I can see why that's the most popular show in Britain right now.
Cute shit. Max is saying how she was so glad that we got to watch it without all of like the bullshit like tabloid like gossip around it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, their tabloid gossip around the Great British Bake Off. It's all
It's just kind of counterintuitive. I just want to know who Chetna's sleeping with.
But no, British Bake Off is so good. Highly recommend y'all. It's hard to find here in the States, but you can find an episode or two uploaded to YouTube. It's some good shit.
I feel bad now. I didn't realize you guys would get into it that much. Otherwise, I would have not shown you guys the last episode first, because that kind of spoils you who's gonna win. But yeah,
it's definitely a show that's more about the baking and the and all that shit.
Also the bonerific werewolf host.
Oh man, we're on the Paul train. Philly and I are both
Paul
like
train, the Paul Hollywood.
Mm.
Yeah, and who's the lesbian host?
I'll cut the crust off his loaf.
Wow.
The lesbian host is what's her name? Sue Perkins is great.
Sue Perkins, yeah.
We fully also watched. Sue Perkins did a show called Heading Out. That was just like a one series thing on BBC. She didn't get commissioned for a second one. It's about her. She's a veterinarian and she is trying to come out to her parents. It's very very cute.
35
Yeah, they're like 35. So.
Oh, that's super goddamn cute.
Shit thing.
But yeah, so you would give Paul Hollywood a good bake.
That's right.
Good color, good bake.
I'd let him rest.
Is it horrible if I just want to bang the living shit out of Mary Berry? Or more specifically, I want her to bang the shit out of me.
And with that, everybody, we're going to take a little break, and then we'll be back for the Geek Week in review.
Scrumptious. Very scrumptious.
Alright, Bill, I got to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. I was just going to sit here looking at Haunted House EBR.
and talk about Bake Off. My feelings.
Bake Off! Let's see, 121. Hello, everyone at home. One viewer. We'll be back in a second when Annie's done pooping. I just always assume break means pooping. I really am just looking at these auctions for Haunted House. Man, this shit is expensive. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Have you ever found anything on Bricklink?
We can walk through it together. Hey, Bill.
Man, I made the mistake while you're going to the bathroom of looking up just custom minifigures on Bricklink, because I've really never looked at Bricklink before until literally just this afternoon. I saw that for some reason they have a shitload of Indiana Jones custom minifigures, and I realized it's not because there's literally more Indiana Jones custom minifigures than almost anything else. It's mostly because it's not because they're creating Indiana Jones figures as much as it's all these customized Nazi minifigures.
Yeah.
Which is really goddamn weird, but then at the same time, I'm like, I have that Parisian restaurant. I've been thinking about something special I could do with it. I was thinking about kind of putting Star Wars Cantina characters in there, and I'm like, what if you did like an Indiana Jones, like Nazi occupation Parisian restaurant. That is the stupidest thing to think about, but part of me is like, I could do that.
There are a lot of people who are into like historical war bullshit with Legos.
Which is funny because like part of me was thinking, oh my god, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? But of course, the first thing my head pops into is like, but I could make Nazi occupied Parisian restaurant. Well, also actually, if I wanted to, I could also instead of even specifically Indiana Jones, it could be a Casablanca Nazi Parisian restaurant. Maybe in the artist loft upstairs, I could have Rick and Elsa like watching the Nazis stomp in and just like I don't know. Yeah. This
All
is
right, my friend.
There's in the Indiana Jones. When you actually look up the Indiana Jones custom minifigure thing, there's literally just one custom Indiana Jones minifigure of Indiana Jones wearing his little grade professor suit, but he's got 5 o'clock shadow. Literally everything else is just Nazi soldiers.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god, so man, Lego fandom, you are so fucking weird but great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what else? I guess we're recording the podcast. I guess we're back from break.
Bill, I'm in the middle of eating right now. If you put this in the podcast, I will kill you.
Why? What are you eating? Oh, it's only terrible if you're eating something bad. Did I tell you about how I had Lunchables again?
No, hold on a second.
Well, this is my one-man stand-up routine. Well, I had all the junk food that I bought for, I was going to have Maxwell Motley eat, what you keep on talking about every goddamn week. But two of the things, I bought 2 Lunchables because I wanted her to see what her reaction to Lunchables would be. And so, of course, like, she didn't eat them, so I had them for, like, a late-night snack last week. Man, Lunchables are terrible, but, oh, man, there's, like, little, like... Dylan and I were having this conversation about how meat can sometimes be really gross if it's got, like... Especially, she was talking about she had like a ham sandwich somewhere downtown, and she was unlucky enough to get like ham from this place that's used as like all natural, like recently butchered ham. So it was kind of this gray slab of meat with like gristle and stuff in there. And we were talking about how great it is sometimes. Like what you really do want is like super processed, color injected meat. So you kind of forget it's from an animal, but it's like that idealized thing. And I started talking about how like the meat, the little discs of ham inside of a Lunchables is like this perfect, like pink little glossy disc.
Yep.
And it's like kind of the ideal like lunch food ham kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that shit was it's terrible but delicious.
I'm glad you had a transcendent Lunchable experience, Bill.
Oh god, yeah. This is man. Do they have haunted house Lunchables on eBay? Let's look.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's time for the Geek Week in Review. This is, of course, part of the podcast where I read notes from the week that was that Bill has written, and this is my first time, in some cases, learning these things and definitely reading them.
Yeah, I always mean to take more advantage of the situation than I do, but...
Let's start off with a 15-foot tall, 90-year-old plaster sphinx from the silent film version of the Ten Commandments was discovered in the California desert.
What? Yeah, so I guess this is I guess Cecil B. DeMille made 2 versions of the Ten Commandments. He did like a silent version like 1923, and then 30 years later he did the one with Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
That always gets shown at Easter every year. But yeah, so I guess they had like 20 giant 15-foot tall sphinxes, plaster sphinxes that they built out in the California desert as part of the Egypt set. And instead of like, I guess the rumor was that they had just dynamited everything and buried it all under like in a big pit when filming was done. And it turns out they didn't even do that. They just left the set standing, so the desert dunes just kind of came in and covered everything up. Yeah, and they just discovered the sphinxes just recently. And so there was all these pictures, which is funny to see pictures of this excavation of sphinxes, not real sphinxes, but they're kind of like turning into an archaeological expedition of uncovering these fake sphinxes from only 90 years ago.
That's too funny.
But it's crazy to think all these like almost 100-year-old statues, like plaster statues, which were only designed to last like maybe 2 or 3 weeks of filming. That you're just kind of preserved in the sand, just like almost like real sphinxes out in the desert. And yeah, it was reading about their steps to kind of preserve the sphinxes are crazy because I guess they were just made out of hollow plaster.
Yeah, I was gonna say plaster. I'm surprised there's anything left.
Yeah, that's what they're kind of talking about. Is that well, some of the Sphinxes are more fucked up than others, but in order to preserve the Sphinxes, what they're doing as they're uncovering the Sphinxes, they're also trying to suck out all of the sand that have gotten inside the Sphinxes and replacing it with like an expanding foam. So at least like there's less chance of the Sphinxes just collapsing under their own weight and stuff like that. But I don't know how much of that stuff they're actually going to be able to preserve because it's 90-year-old plaster that's been in the desert. And also, I mean, it's a little piece of film history, but at the same time, like, what are you going to do with a 15-foot half-rotten Sphinx that you just pulled in from the desert? But
Yeah.
there's just a weird little bit of film history. The fact
Yeah.
that all that stuff, the whole huge set was out there just buried underneath the sand.
Huh.
Speaking of, Indiana Jones kind of stuff, but
Movie magic.
fake archaeology. Yeah. Movie magic. It's beautiful.
That's right.
Man, Ten Commandments. Those movies are fucking terrible.
At the New York Comic Con, Brad Bird confirmed he was in talks to direct Episode 7. It sounds like he was on board until filming was pushed from next year up to this past summer, at which point he had to pull out to finish Tomorrowland.
Yeah, man, so they think that Brad Bird could have been the first guy to direct a new Star Wars movie. That would have been pretty fucking cool.
Man. I'm
Man,
bummed.
well, I wonder if they already talked about him doing, like, the first Star Wars movie. Why didn't they just say... I mean, I would imagine... I mean, they already have... What's-his-face lined up for the second one.
Ryan Johnson.
Why would he not direct the third one? Just bring him back in. That'd be for the perfect way to wrap up this new trilogy. Just fucking Brad Bird put his ass in charge of it.
He's already established that he's really good at directing the third installment of a trilogy, or of a franchise, so...
Wait, what did he do?
Didn't he do Mission Impossible 3?
Did he? No, that was J.J. Abrams.
Oh, excuse me. Did Brad Bird did Mission Impossible 4?
He did Ghost Protocol, which was 4?
Yeah, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, he did 4. That's the one with... yeah.
Then,
So,
excuse me,
John
my joke
Woo
should
needs to
be...
direct the last Star Wars movie, then. if
My
we're gonna go
joke
this
should
route.
be that he's really good at following up J.J. Abrams in a franchise.
There you go. Okay, that's what it is. Well, that's the other thing, is J.J. Abrams already has that thing where his whole thesis in making movies is let special people be special, and who's more special than, a Jedi Knight who's trying to put together, like, the Jedi Order and fix the galaxy.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it was funny that he just came out and said, yeah, I could have directed Star Wars, but I was busy with Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
I should be making a movie about sexy Disney starring George Clooney.
Related news, a massive leak of some supposed Episode 7 concept art came out.
Did you see or hear anything about this stuff?
No, remember how we've had a conversation a couple of times, how I want to know as little as possible about Episode
Oh,
7?
yeah, we just talked about that last week. Okay, I'm glad I didn't put any specifics, so I can't really say anything about this, huh?
We had friends of the podcast, Jimmy and Conley, over a couple of nights ago, and they were complaining about some supposed stuff, and I'm like, you know what? The best thing that can possibly happen is I'm pleasantly surprised about a Star War, but I'm not holding my breath.
What were they complaining about?
I asked them not to be specific because I was trying to keep as unspoiled as possible.
Really?
Which is
Man,
impossible, but yeah.
Supposedly one of the main characters, Daisy Ridley, she's a lady. Supposedly they just have her dressed like Bayonetta for most of the movie, and by me not like they actually like talk to like Sega and they're like, we're just gonna use it. We're gonna put laser guns in her boots. She's just gonna dance.
In other news, HBO announced this week that they were going to be doing HBO Go as a separate subscription service.
Annie, I love you're just not gonna put up with my bullshit. I like it. You rarely push back against me, but I love it when you're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let Bill just like twiddle and like just essentially just like fiddle with himself while no one else is looking and just ignore that's happening.
That's pretty much my plan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, HBO Go.
Yeah.
There was something about. I think I misinterpreted this. I think even just yesterday, there were some leaks about how HBO Go is coming to the Xbox One. For a moment, I thought that meant that they were like this was an announcement that like this version of HBO Go is coming to the Xbox One. It sounds like I don't think there's. This is just HBO Go in general, just that app that is already on all the other consoles, is coming to the consoles. But that's. I would imagine one of the first things they'll probably do is make this HBO Go that doesn't require an HBO subscription available on. I mean, it should only take a software update to make it so that we can watch that shit on our consoles.
Well, it's just going to be like a login. That's all it is now. You just log in.
Well, I wonder, do you think they're going to make it so you have to pay for all of HBO? Like, is it going to be like an app subscription then, or do you think you'll be able to pay for individual series?
I imagine it's going to be an app subscription because as it is, they're not interested in selling you components. They want to sell you the whole meal deal.
I wonder if they'll make it cheap like Netflix. Is it just going to be $10 a month, or I wonder if they're going to like try to? I wonder if they're so used to cable subscription prices if they're going to make it like $50 a month, but you don't need an HBO subscription, even though that's essentially what it costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to. I would assume this is going to definitely happen before Game of Thrones comes back next year, because that is their big, the show right now. So I would imagine by March we'll finally get this. But yeah, I would love to actually pay for HBO content if I can. But I don't know, that's just kind of interesting, especially just even like 2 years ago, HBO was saying how they would never ever do this.
Yeah.
It's funny how quickly they turned from like, no, that's crazy. Our entire model is based off of cable subscriptions to, yep, we're doing it. Just
Yeah.
give us a couple months.
Yeah.
So.
It's just, and interesting. It just kind of speaks to how the ingestion of media is changing in the modern.
So HBO, would that mean you only get HBO Go? Can you watch anything from HBO?
Pretty much, yeah.
Really? Because I would love to watch like some movies. Like it would be nice to have HBO. Okay, because I'd be down with watching like
Some really good documentaries. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, my idea of HBO, I haven't watched HBO in 20 years, so I'm thinking about what HBO was like 20 years ago, where it's like Dream On and Real 628 and all that shit. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's not complete. It's like any streaming service where it's like certain chunks of their back catalog, but they've got in there. Yeah, I had borrowed a friend's HBO Go account for a while there and was having a good time with it.
Yeah, that should be a good time.
In other news, there's going to be a Lego Batman movie, and the guy who made The Night at the Museum movies has been hired to make a Minecraft movie.
The Night at the Museum is making the Minecraft movie. Jesus Christ.
How do you make a Minecraft movie?
Well, the same thing you could say, how do you make a Lego movie? I wonder if it's going to be some kind of meta thing just like the Lego movie, or the guy who made The Night... I'm just hoping that the guy who made The Night in the Museum movies had such an amazing pitch for the Minecraft movie that like they were like, oh, how can we not do this movie? But oh god, Night in the Museum. Not to besmirch the good name of the Night in the Museum movies, but anyway. But yeah, Lego Batman, that could be kind of cool. I don't know.
I'm curious because half the pleasure of that character was that he was not even a secondary, but like even a tertiary character.
Yeah.
Having him front and center will be interesting.
Well, also, there's already so much culture is kind of Batmaned out right now. It's kind of like, how much more Batman do we need? Even if it's
well, the point is that this is kind of a reaction to popular conception of Batman. So, you know.
I know, and this gives what's his name more money.
Will Arnett.
Yeah, even though he can't spend it on anniversary gifts with Amy Poehler no more.
Let's him play it with child support.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. This means he gets double the child support. Yeah. The payments to Amy Poehler, which is always a good thing.
Bill's next note on the Geek Week in Review is enigmatic. I am bread, says Bill.
Do you know not what this means?
No.
Annie, Google I am bread. I'll have to sing a song while you're Googling it and looking at what this actually is.
Oh, is this the bread game?
Did you actually hear about what the Did you hear about the game though? Yeah.
I had seen animated GIFs of this in development.
So really, you've seen all you need to know of I Am Bread. Yeah. So this is the next game from the Surgeon Simulator guys.
Wow.
In which you're just a piece of bread just doing stuff.
A piece of bread?
Yeah, you're just a piece of bread.
Crawling around. The best thing is each limb is attached to a controller, a button on your controller, so
yeah, it's sort of reminiscent of Octodad to some degree.
Yeah. I think the only goal in the game is to get yourself inside the toaster to toast yourself.
Well, it's cool that
you got this whole house you can run around and do stuff in. So
that's amazing.
This is the name of the game. I Am Bread.
Oh, that's so good.
I love indie shit. My God!
Video games, bless.
I love living in this era. Oh, did I tell you? Do you have any interest in hearing about Sleepy Dogs on the PlayStation 4? That's the only kind of normal game I've been playing.
Are you enjoying Sleepy Dogs on the PS4?
Annie, I'm gonna blow your mind, but Sleepy Dogs on PS4 is just it's Sleeping Dogs on PlayStation 4. It does not look any better than the original game. I actually went on to NeoGAF to see what other people's opinions. I hadn't seen any reviews of this port, which I was really surprised by. People pointed out supposedly there were graphical effects in the original Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 version of the game that aren't in this version. Like, I guess there's a scene, there's a dance club where there's some kind of like lighting effects and some kind of dances that the characters had in the old version of the game that they don't have in this new one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's because it was a rushed port or something like that, but people are like, why is there actually like less detail in some of these scenes in this new version than there was in the old one? It's still fun. You just run around punching dudes and stuff.
I really enjoy Sleeping Dogs.
Man, playing a Shadow... Sleepy Dogs, because I've played a shitload of Forza, which is a really good racing game, and Shadow of Mordor, which is a really good combat game, right before playing Sleepy Dogs, which is mostly like driving and combat. And the combat and the driving is not nearly as good as in these two other games in which driving and combat is the whole point of those games. Not to say there's anything wrong with Sleepy Dogs, but I kind of picked the wrong moment to play Sleepy Dogs again.
I can understand that.
Combat is really frustrating.
It took me a while to pick up the accent of the game, but then I enjoyed speaking fluently with it. I'll just say that.
Wei Shen is pretty fun.
I
like the characters in the game.
Wei Shen is a pretty good, pretty ace entrance in the video game pantheon. So I'm fine with that.
Which especially because you don't see too many hunky Asian dudes in video games. They're always like, if you have an Asian dude in a video game, it's usually some kind of like super like stereotype Asian because it's a Western game, or he's like got tiny little Final Fantasy pants on.
I really like Wei Shen. He's such a good beast. He fills out a tank top nicely.
So how did you dress your Wei Shen? I'm assuming tank top, huh?
Mostly, yeah, or like just tattooed and shirtless. Or there is a point at some point where you get to the there's some really good. I wish the fashion was a little more robust in Sleep Dogs.
Yeah, I was wondering about
pretty
that.
good outfits you get later on in the game that I did enjoy. I can't remember what our Wei Shen wore.
Maybe it's DLC, but I think there's a picture on the back of the box that he's got a giant straw hat, like one of the characters from, like the bad guys from Big Trouble in Little China. Which I like, kind of like the giant, not like the triangular pyramid hats, but like the big, like wicker basket hats. Which I would love to run around, like trying to steal cars and stuff like that. Wearing a hat like that.
Well,
have you guys been playing Shadow of Mordor or Destiny?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay, I might have to borrow those.
I can get back to you. I don't know. Shadow of Mordor. I'm just it hasn't sunk its teeth into me yet. I'm curious about it, but I don't know. At the very least, I'll probably give you Destiny back. So.
Oh, but then again, Korra comes out on Tuesday. This Tuesday, I think. Yeah, it's the Legend of Korra downloadable game from the Platinum guys. Speaking of Bayonetta.
Yeah.
I think next week. Does something come out next? Oh man, Assassin's Creed and all that stuff, that doesn't come out until next month, right?
It comes out in November, yeah.
I think there was at least one game coming out on the 28th. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'll let you read the show notes.
Well, the Halo Collection coming to Xbox One will have a 20 gigabyte day one update, which people have pointed out is larger than many whole games.
Yeah, that's goddamn crazy. My house...
20 gigabyte day one update.
Where I live, we have Comcast, and Comcast has imposed a 200 gigabyte bandwidth cap for us for any given month. So this will take up in one goddamn Master Chief Collection update, will take up a tenth of our bandwidth of the month.
What the hell is on the disc?
That's what people. So I guess Microsoft put out a PR, and the way their PR press release was phrased about this, they kind of made it sound like it's all of the multiplayer.
Wait, that's literally Halo.
That's most of Halo, so you are kind of downloading most of what you want to play on this, like, is coming down a hole. Like, and they're like, well, it's coming on a Blu-ray that already holds 50 gigs. Like, what the hell is on that? And, well, I guess, they hired the Blur Studio, which does a lot of full motion CGI cutscenes for video games. They did all the crazy, like, Knights of the New Republic cutscenes, and like, pretty much at E3, if you see a crazy pre-rendered CGI cutscene, it's usually this studio Blur that does all that stuff. That they hired these guys to kind of remake a lot of the cutscenes for some of the games in the collection, and that data by itself may have taken up a lot of data on the disc. So it sounds like you might be, when you buy that Halo collection, you're really buying a DVD of remade cutscenes from the games, and then you're actually kind of downloading the game later.
Sounds like it.
Jesus Christ.
Video games.
Video games, you can't do this. This is not a good way to, especially as companies are getting more draconian with their bandwidth caps. You can't be pulling shit like this. I think they announced just this weekend too that I think GTA 5 for the new consoles that's gonna be a 50 gig game too. That I think that's official now. That is going to be officially the biggest video game out there that you can download to consoles. 50 gigs.
Woof.
Oof, yeah. So anyway, what's up?
Speaking of draconian, Robert Redford will star in a remake of Pete's Dragon?
Did you know that there was a remake of Pete's Dragon?
No!
My joke was hopefully it's directed by Clint Eastwood if you're just gonna have old people involved in Pete's Dragon.
Oh my god.
Could you imagine like a super gritty remake of Pete's Dragon where it's all like we're old, we're dying. Robert Redford.
It's a gritty upgrade. It's definitely Pete's Dragon.
Do you think it's going to end with Robert Redford and Dragon going out in a blaze of glory at the end?
Wait, do you think Robert Redford will not be the dragon?
No, I think isn't it Pete's Dragon? Isn't there like an old sea captain that they hang out with? I'm assuming he's going to play like the old sea captain guy.
I cannot remember. You're officially asking me way too much about Pete's Dragon. All I remember in Pete's Dragon is Pete and the dragon, and there's like a woman and her two henchmen that are kind of reminiscent of the villains in Goonies. This is how my brain remembers this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's all I remember from Pete's Dragon.
Yeah, all I remember is the dragon itself, and it takes place like in some kind of like, isn't it like a lighthouse? Isn't it like some coastal like shit? Like,
congratulations, you remember more about Pete's Dragon.
You know, it'd be great though if it's actually like they don't even try to update the dragon. It's the same damn dragon. It's just like he's been hanging out. He's been sleeping for 100 years. Now he's just kind of back up and like, hey, how you doing, Robert Redford? Let's go. Where's Pete? Pete's.
What if Robert Redford is adult Pete?
Oh, that'd be great. Oh man, thinking about that brings me back to the Brad Bird stuff about Hogarth Hughes in Vietnam.
Hogarth Hughes, yeah.
I just want to tweet every day at Brad Bird, just Hogarth Hughes in Vietnam, question mark, just to see what he says about that, yeah. When are we getting that goddamn movie?
And finally, They Might Be Giants are bringing back their dial-a-song service next year.
Do you care about They Might Be Giants?
They were one of my favorite bands when I was a wee bairn, and They Might Be Giants as far back as the 80s. They had an answering machine where you could call in, and they would record songs straight onto tape on the answering machine, and you could hear a song by They Might Be Giants. And they kept this going well into the digital age. They have the dial-a-song website, though granted it's just randomly generated MP3s.
It is? Okay, yeah.
And
I was reading last night. Yeah, they had that service going up until like 2006.
Yeah, very very recently. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, bless.
No, it's coming back. So they said for all of 2015, so it doesn't sound like it's indefinite. But I'm assuming that just means that they spent like the last year cooking up 52 little songs that they could update. So they're supposedly trying to get the original phone number back. But since they let the phone number lapse, I think they found out that some other musicians claimed the phone number. I don't know if like these other guys are also doing their own dial-a-song thing with their They Might Be Giants' old phone number, but it's funny to hear them trying to like reclaim their old phone number. So everyone, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, They Might Be Giants. What's a good They Might Be Giants song? I need that for the podcast.
What's a good They Might Be Giants song? What is it? What is your favorite They Might Be Giants song? They're all good.
I don't know. There's some clunkers.
Oh yeah, well no. But let me think. My favorite They Might Be Giants songs are of course Istanbul, Not Constantinople. That's a classic.
Yeah, Constantinople. Okay.
I really like I tend to like their horn songs. Like one of my favorite They Might Be Giants songs is actually a live version of their song, A Museum of Idiots. I used to be a big They Might Be Giants fan back in the day. One of my clearest memories of playing video games is sitting in our entryway where we had a shitty little TV with our Super Nintendo hooked up to it, listening to my cassette tape of Flood playing Donkey Kong Country on the Super
Nintendo. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Now we know what we're doing for your birthday next year.
that's right.
That's one of the things yesterday, like right before I actually headed out to the Portland Retro Game Expo yesterday, I was drawing up a list of like games if I see them for cheap I should pick up. And one of the things when I was thinking, oh well, if I pick up a Retron 5, what Super Nintendo game should I get? And one of the two things I was like, Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country. And I know like you have like a lot of nostalgia for those two games, so that's why I actually sent you an email saying, hey Annie, if I find anything, would you like anything? Just think about those two games in particular. Not that you have anything to play those games on, but
I broke, much to my sister's chagrin, I broke our family to Super Nintendo.
yeah. How did you break that again?
Oh, it came apart. It's a long story. But yeah, no.
Oh wait,
I'm
yeah.
glad you had a good time with it. I'm glad you had a
I'm
good
just
time.
saying, if you ever want to play Donkey Kong Country on the big screen again, I could hook you up because I got that shit that actually hooks up to a TV. Man, that's the other thing about playing this Retron 5 stuff. Just doing a little bit I played last night. Man, there's a big difference between playing like old 8-bit and 16-bit Nintendo games on like you can emulate that stuff on a laptop or play it like you can play those like on a 3DS or something like that or on a Vita like the old Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
But man, playing that shit like on a TV with an actual controller, that's all the difference, man.
That's true enough.
I was playing some Super Mario World last night on the TV with this real Super Nintendo controller. I was like, this actually feels like playing a real video game again, where it's like playing an emulator or something like that. It's it's an approximation, but
exactly. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's a simulation of home as opposed to home. So.
Yeah.
All right, my friends, as always, this was the Boy Hattie Podcast. At Boy Hattie Podcast is our handle on the Twitters. howdyboyhattiepodcast.com is a way for us to contact us. If you're so inclined, you can leave us a review on the iTunes. We'll be back next week to talk to y'all about more pop culture garbage.
I look forward to battling everyone on the pro bending fields of the Legend of Korra game coming out this Tuesday. Did you say if you're going to pick that up?
I may. I
Okay.
probably will.
I know the multiplayer is supposed to be the Pro Bending Arena. I don't know if that's even supposed to be online. I don't even know if the game's supposed to be any good. $15 though, so at least if you splurge on it, it's not like it's not the end of the world if it's not that great. But are you gonna pick up Costume Quest 2? Speaking of Halloween stuff in video games,
I'm waiting for it to come out on consoles.
Is it not going to be out this year in time for consoles?
I don't know. It's on PC Mac right now, but I want to play it on a console.
Also, where's goddamn the second half of that adventure game? Oh my god!
I don't know. Bye, everybody. I'll talk to you next week.
Annie's gotta go poop. We'll talk to you guys next week. Love you.
All right, my friend. I will send you my 2 MP3s for you to do the thing.
That sounds saucy and erotic.